Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufas Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So apologies, today we were not able to start at exactly 11 a.m. You had to do a 30-minute delay, but thankfully we're able to hold this session. So today, there's quite a number of things I want us to think about and conceptualize in the markets so that we're in tune with what's currently happening and are able to identify the best ideas in the market. So hello, Ivy, hello, Charlie, hello, Apollo. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining the session. I hope we are going to have an impressive outcome after this. So today and this week, we know that it's the very beginning of another quarter of the year. So the last quarter ended on Friday last week. This quarter started yesterday. So new goals, new targets. Hopefully you've been able to achieve some of your milestones. So at the same time, we know last week was purely technical, less news in the markets, less distractions. So you are able to identify key technical trading positions based on chart patterns. So this week remains a highly volatile week. There's quite a number of news that are expected to be happening in the week. So we'll be looking at some of them and try to understand how to best prepare for those scenarios. So let's begin by some of the key highlights of the week. So I will start with FinViz website. And this is a summary analysis of the top traded currencies in the world, or the major currencies. And as you can see, for the last 1 month, all these currencies have been gaining against the dollar, save for the Japanese yen, which was losing towards the end of last week. So the most, this is the monthly one. So the only one that has been losing is the Australian dollar against the dollar. So all these other ones have been gaining, with the pound being the most aggressive, followed by the euro, the Swiss franc, the Japanese yen, the Canadian dollar, and the New Zealand dollar. So month to date, which basically implies yesterday and today, you can see that the pound has been the most aggressive, followed by the Australian dollar, the euro, the Canadian dollar, and the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. But for the JPY, we mentioned that this is expected to continue seeing weakness as the monetary policy indicates some further weakness over the year, where the Japanese yen is expected to be losing against other currencies. So there's quite a number of things that you need to know that are major headlines this week. One is that this is a very short week. On Friday, we will be celebrating what we call Good Friday. And during that public holiday in the US, the US stock markets will not be open. So if you're a stock market trader, you know that the market will be closed on Friday. So a lot of volatility will happen between Monday and Thursday. Today is Tuesday, so only a very small window. So the other thing is the oil surge. We discussed this yesterday, that oil prices jumped on Monday after a group of major oil producers led by Saudi Arabia vowed to cut production this year by 1.16 million barrels per day. So the biggest cut would be coming from Saudi Arabia, which is about 500,000 barrels per day. We'll be also seeing the UAE cutting its output by 144,000 barrels. Kuwait, Oman, Iraq, Algeria, and Kazakhstan also scale back their oil output. So then there's the biggest news in the stock market. WWE is being bought by the UFC owner, and this is leading to a lot of speculation in the market. So WWE was about to wrap the biggest event on its calendar. CNBC's Alex Sherman broke the news that Vince McMahon's wrestling empire would merge with Dana White's UFC under the control of media executive, super agent, and entourage inspiration Ari Emanuel, the CEO of Endeavor Group. The companies officially announced the deal Monday morning. The agreement values WWE at about $9.3 billion and UFC at $12.1 billion. So the two combat sports organizations would unite under a single company that is yet to be named, that would be separate from the Endeavor Group. Emmanuel is slated to be the CEO of both, while McMahon and Dana White will also hold on to leadership roles. So that's one of the key developing stories for the week. And also there is the Starbucks controversy, where Starbucks fired Alexis Rizzo, one of the key people behind the organized labor push at the coffee giant, triggering a backlash from the Starbucks Workers Union, United Union. So her termination came a couple of days after Howard Schultz, the three-time former CEO of Starbucks, defended the company's labor practices in a Senate hearing led by pro-union Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent from Vermont. Sanders has accused Schultz and Starbucks of union-busting tactics, which the former executive and the company dispute. So Starbucks said Rizzo had been written up for being late on several occasions at her Buffalo, New York cafe. Rizzo told CNBC's Ashley Kaput that she had been 1 minute late on 2 of those 4 instances. I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 days after Howard Schultz had his ego bruised the way that he did, that he started rushing out at Buffalo. So the thing is, there's a lot of expected firings for Starbucks. So if they happen to go ahead this week, then they will increment a trend that we have been observing of major companies in the US cutting their staff in order to adjust to the current economic environment. So while cutting staff has been often seen as positive in the last couple of weeks, and stocks that are cutting staff tend to be gaining, there's also the overall picture where we'll be expecting more unemployment in the space, and this might not be good for the US economy. So as for the economic calendar, there's quite a number of things that happened early this morning. The business confidence survey in New Zealand came in at negative 66. This is bad. Japanese monetary base year over year, negative 1.0%. All these are low impact news. We have a bank holiday in China today, then the 10-year bond auction in Japan, before we saw the Australian interest rate data. So there was expectations that the Bank of Australia would go for a 25 basis point hike, which would push their interest rates to 3.85%. But instead, the Reserve Bank of Australia decided to hold rates steady at 3.6%. And this is now contributing to a much weaker Australian dollar. So whenever you see a central bank stopping their rate hikes cycle, we have seen it happen with Canada. We have seen it happen now with Australia. But for Japan, for them, they never even hiked interest rates. So that explains why we have a very strong bias on a much weaker Japanese yen. So joining that list is the Australian dollar. So if you happen to see an economy where there is a ultra tough interest rate hikes, then pairing that with the Japanese yen or with the Australian dollar will make more sense and will give you some higher probability of wins compared to other pairs. So German trade balance at 16.0 billion. This is good. I remember some time back, this was at a negative, and you can see Germany is recovering very well. So in July last year, the trade balance was at a negative, meaning that Germany was a net importer. But since then, you can see the improvements here, basically indicating that Germany is improving, and now it's back to the net exporter status. Spanish unemployment dropped by a negative 48.8K, and this basically means that the number of people who are filing for unemployment insurance for the first time had dropped to negative 48.8K, meaning that the economy is improving very well, mainly as a result of the services sector. This is good news. So as we know, this is a non-farm payrolls week. On Friday, the stock market will not be open, which means that Americans will only be left with forex trading since the stock market will be closed. So with that in mind, knowing that we are looking at one single data point for the US, that will be the most important one on Friday, the non-farm payrolls, then it's very important we understand what we are expecting or an insight of what to expect this week. So one key indicator of what you might expect in the non-farm payrolls jobs will be the JOLTS job openings that will be reported at 5 p.m. later today. And then on top of that, we also be looking at the ADP non-farm employment change tomorrow. So combining these two data points might give us an insight on what to expect on Friday during the non-farm payrolls. So it's very important to follow up on the JOLTS job openings. So in the previous reading, it was 10.82 million jobs, and now we're expecting 10.49 million jobs. So it's a slight slowdown in the expectation. However, the outcome might raise volatility in the markets today. So tomorrow, very early in the morning, now we look at another interest rate data point coming from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and this will be happening at 5 a.m. So we expect a 25 basis point hike from 4.75% to 5% for New Zealand. So if this happens, then there's that potential that we could be seeing a very volatile Asian session trading the New Zealand dollar. So now that we are through with that, a quick look at the charts. So after Reserve Bank of Australia deciding not to continue with the rate hikes, then we have seen a very strong reversal of a momentum that we experienced yesterday. So this reversal is happening right now. And now there's a key price point that appears on the trend line, and this is 0.67309. So if price happens to bounce from here, then we continue the journey higher. But then from the current momentum, there's an indication that we could see an entire reversal of yesterday's move. So prices dropping all the way back to the lower trend line might not be a big surprise. So this is a triangle that had been formed for quite a period of time, since around 28th of February. So the entire month of March, the market was trading within the triangle, happened to break on April. This is yesterday, but now you can see it's going right back into the pattern. So as for gold, we have been marking these areas as support. So we managed to capture these, didn't quite rally to the target. Went back down and then rallied, didn't get to the target, and then back down yesterday, then rallied, didn't quite get to the target. So it's a market that is clearly indicating sideways momentum. So for a while now, gold is trading sideways. So we can't say it's overly directional. There's no clear direction here to say that gold is moving up or down. So since this particular date here, the overall momentum can be estimated to be sideways along this particular arrow. So in this case, it makes sense to trade on the side lines. So the side line seems to be the resistance here at 2002 is a nice area to look for an entry position, and also the lower trend line here that's marked in blue. So if gold happens to get to either of these two prices, then we might be able to identify trading opportunities. So for majors, USD CAD broke the lower trend line, broke the lower support. So we had a support level identified very well here. It was broken yesterday, so there's a good chance we could be seeing some further downside, especially if the strength in oil prices persists. So after the news that the OPEC Plus countries and Saudi are cutting oil production, then in this case, we expect a rally in Brent oil prices, but then also the Canadian dollar tends to benefit from that. So remember, the market pulled back to this trend line and then rallied, and this is Brent oil. So if we happen to break the opening price of $85.849 per barrel, then there's room for more upside in this particular chart. So in this case, I'll be testing yesterday's high, and if that happens, then USD CAD might also be moving further back downwards. So as for the dollar index, you can see there was a big drop yesterday. Today, a pullback, retested this level of 101.9 and then pulled back downwards. So if you happen to see some consistency in pushing further downwards, then the majors will continue to rally. Remember, the pound made a very impressive recovery yesterday. Today is pushing even higher, seems to be the strongest currency in the market. New Zealand USD made a very good rally. But as I mentioned, we have an interest rate decision just past midnight. So this could also cause volatility. Remember, the break was on the upper side, market pulled all the way back and then rallied. And now it seems like the market is now forming higher highs, indicating a bullish momentum. So for Euro USD, same case, a very strong recovery and rally yesterday. So today we are testing this major resistance of 1.09276. If we break, then there's a room for more upside. USD yen, I mentioned that this is giving mixed signals. So for the yen, we mentioned it's easier to trade it against stronger currencies, and the stronger currencies seem to be the pound and the euro. So for now, we are seeing the euro making some good run. So after the pullback on Friday last week, yesterday, the market attempted to push higher, pull back down, and today it's accelerating. So a target of Friday's high might be in order for intraday trading, 145.663. 10 pound yen, same case. So pulled back on Friday, yesterday made some recovery before pulling back downwards. Today, it has already broken Friday's high. So it might be in order to look at the next point or the next target, which was a high that was seen last month on the 28th of February. That's 2 months ago. So in this case, the nearest target for pound yen is 166.015. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys. Let me check if there's any questions so I can respond. Please educate on why card and oil are correlated. So the major economic driver for Canada is oil exports, just like Nigeria. So Canada majorly depends on oil exports to earn its revenue. So whenever you see oil prices rising, then Canada tends to benefit, and the Canadian dollar is in higher demand. So we get to see a much stronger Canadian dollar. So the other key economic drivers in Canada, it's not just oil. They're also big manufacturers of ships and equipment, as well as telecommunications equipment. But the major key economic driver, the way we say in Kenya, it's agriculture. For Canada, it's majorly oil exports. USA is currently the world's biggest oil producer. A majority of that oil is consumed locally. So it's not considered as a major exporter compared to other nations like Saudi Arabia or Russia. Will the New York session open on Monday? Easter Monday? I'm not sure. I'll have to check that. But naturally, if there's a holiday on Friday, then it's also a holiday on Monday. So I don't expect the market to be opening on Monday. Hello, Kevo. So AUD has tapped its liquidity on February 14th. Let's check that. USD. So you're talking about the 14th of February. Oh, yes, around this area. Yes, there was a lot of range around this area. So yes, it makes sense for this pullback, but also you have to consider the fundamentals. So seeing the dollar index this week, you don't expect the dollar index to continue losing in a straight line. So if the dollar index starts recovering or regaining, then this might make more sense that the dollar will start gaining further against the Australian dollar. We could be seeing a drop here. However, if this level is not broken, as I mentioned, 0.67309, then this could also be a potential for another bullish run coming from this area here. So a retest of this trend line might be in play, so you have to be aware of that. So the report on IBD seems to have a high impact on NFP. For me, I would be focused on the two data points I mentioned, the JOLTS job openings and the ADP non-farm payrolls. So that's it for today. Remember, we'll be joining again at 4 p.m. So if you're available, just set a reminder. We'll be having the markets at a grand series. This will be at 4 p.m. We'll try to understand what's currently happening, the newer developments in the markets for the day, and we'll try to make more projections then. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your trading day.